Now, with sequences, most people are happy with the content, and sometimes the questions that come up can be quite easy, sort of in the sense that they're straightforward in what they're asking. But every now and then they throw in one that's a little bit more complicated. So what we'll do is we'll go through the different types of sequences, what you're looking out for, and then we'll discuss the equations that we can use and how to answer questions on them. So the first type is an arithmetic sequence. And this is going to be whenever we add or subtract the same amount as we go between our terms. Okay, so for example, we could go 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on. Now, to describe an arithmetic sequence, we need to have two terms identified to be able to help us. We need the first term, which we give the symbol U1. And then we also need the thing that we're adding or subtracting, and that's what we call our common difference. So for this one, the common difference would be +2. So that would be what we label D. Okay, and that is basically it for an arithmetic sequence. It's sort of quite easy to notice and quite straightforward to work out what the next terms are. Now, sometimes the IB likes to give you this in a slightly different way. So for example, I've seen questions before when it says that the n+1 term is equal to the nth term plus 3. Okay, and they tell you, say, that U1 is equal to 11. Now, for a question like this, if we write out a few terms in our sequence, then we see that the first term is 11. The next term, we'll add 3 to go on to the next term, will be 14, then 17, then 20. So this is a similar way, or a slightly different, but again, similar way to write an arithmetic sequence. Okay, so we can see that as we go to the next term, we're always adding on 3 each time. Now that's what's happening, but most of the time the questions are going to rely on your ability to use the formulae. And so all of these are in the data booklet. And generally what I'll do is I'll abbreviate DB for anything that's in the data booklet. So we know that the nth term is equal to the first term plus n-1 lots of the common difference. Okay. So the only thing to be careful with this is this n is which term it is. So e.g. n equals 5 for the 5th term. But this un is the value of the 5th term. So they're slightly different, and sometimes if you're rushing, it's quite easy to accidentally put the value of n here, but n only goes where we have it written, and this is actually the term in the sequence. Now, if we take a look at our sequence, if I take the two outside numbers and add them together, I get 12, and if I move one in, add them together again, I get 12 again. So the first equation that we have for our sum for an arithmetic sequence uses that. So we're told that if I do n divided by 2 and then add together the nth term to the first term and multiply these together, I get the sum of the n terms. Now, this equation isn't really going to be that useful to you most of the time because it requires that you know un, but this is good if you found or if you've already found un. So let's say the question asks you, find the 20th term, and then the second question says, find the sum of the first 20 terms. Then this is really useful because you've already got the number to put in. But otherwise, it's not really worth thinking about this equation because it may just confuse you. But the one in the data booklet which I would recommend you use is that the sum of n terms is equal to n over 2 lots of 2u1 plus n-1d. Okay, and this one's useful because most questions will ask you for the first term and common difference in the first part. Okay, so it makes a lot of sense to then use those numbers in this equation. And for those of you who are interested, to get from this equation to the next equation, what's been done is they've replaced un with the u1 plus n minus 1d. Okay. So in terms of questions, I like to sort of break it apart into sort of two types. There's either type 1, where they just ask you to calculate things. So let's say type 1, it could be, say, find the 12th term, or it could be find the sum of the first 8 terms. Now, if we have these types of questions, then the best thing to do is to just plug it in the formula. For any that sort of when we say, oh, just put the numbers in the formula, you still don't get the right answer when you calculate it. What I find can be really helpful for this is to write out each of the terms. So I would say for the thing, u1 equals 8, d equals 3, n equals 8, and we're finding Sn equals question mark. Okay, and that way I can check that I've got all the letters in the formula that I need. So I have D, I've got N, and I've got U1. And I know that it's a formula finding my question mark. So if I put the numbers in correctly in my calculator, or just in my calculation, then there's nothing stopping it from being the right answer. Now, these questions tend to be sort of question 1 or question 2 in a paper, so they are the easier type of question. The second type of question that we see is when they give you, say, like the 3rd and 12th term, and they say from this, find u1 and the common difference. Now, if they ever do this, it's actually a really easy set of questions to solve, because there's only one method that is going to work. And what I recommend you do is put the formula equal to the terms. So for example, if we're given that the 3rd term is 6 and the 12th term is 24, then I would say that u3 equals 6, and then put the formula in. So that's going to be u1 plus 3 minus 1 lots of d, and then u12 equals 24, and that's equal to u1 plus 12 minus 1 lots of d. So this is u1 plus 2d, u1 plus 11d, and from here we can solve these equations simultaneously. So the easiest thing to do for arithmetic sequences is to just solve it by elimination. Okay, so for example, I could do row 2 minus row 1. And so I'd get 24 minus 6, which is 18, is equal to u1 plus 11d, subtract u1 plus 2d, and the u1s cancel. So I get 9d equals 18. So d is 2. Oh. And if d is 2, then I can see that u1 must also equal 2. And this, a question like this, for higher level, you'd probably only get 2 or 3 marks. But for standard level, this could easily be 4 marks for something like this. And if instead of just giving you terms, they may give you the sum of some terms, it could even be up to 6 marks. Okay, but like I said, the only bit that you need to remember for this method is if you're given terms, put the formula equal to them. That will always be the right thing to do.
I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to click down here to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. If you'd like to access the full online course, including the notes pages we were making, there's a link in our description below. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your revision.